Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel and back to the series in which we call Shouting into the Void. We had a little week break because naturally there was some Doctor Who news going on last weekend, so we decided to cover that instead. I'm sure you can go and have a gander at that elsewhere on the channel if you fancy. But in the meantime, now that we await more news, now that we have the tiny little bit of Jodie's last episode, now we're just waiting for more again. We will go back to our normal watching Doctor Who or rewatching Doctor Who. We've been going from 2005 onwards. We have seen 5 whole series of the show. We have seen a number of specials, and now we're at series 6. Wow, series 6. Matt Smith's second one. Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill are returning as Amy and Rory. River Song's characters, Alex Kingston. I completely forgot her name. Very briefly slipped my mind there. She has returned in this, at least in this first two-parter. And yes, this is a two-part opening. It starts with the Impossible Astronaut. First time in New Who we've had a two-part opening, I guess.
That's one fun fact ticked off.
Yeah, there you go. And I think from how I feel for this first episode, I'm fine with it. I thought this episode was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I don't think there's anything in here that I would necessarily get rid of to make it a shorter story. Might be a different case next week.
Once we've seen the whole thing, we might see. Yeah.
But who knows? How did you feel about the start of series 6?
I very much enjoyed it. I really like the idea of kicking off with a cliffhanger kind of deal. Maybe that's also because we've I say recently, Flux was nearly a year ago now, because a year next month since Flux.
God.
What the hell is happening with time?
Christ.
That was how the
Flux.
There you go.
What the hell's happening with time? You get it?
Nice. So yeah, maybe it's because that was also how the most recent series kicked off and everything. And series 9 also done the same. Oh, it's happened a lot now. But I really like it. It's like the first instance for it, I think, especially because this is something that airs weekly at the time and also had like a mid-season finale and premiere and all of that kind of jazz. It's definitely a good topic of conversation, I think, starting off with part 1 and killing the doctor, and having some creepy as fuck aliens in it. And Amy's pregnant, by the way. River's also,
or is she?
Her timeline's here. Oh boy. Just kind of, they really throw everything at you, and it's like, right, so pay attention, folks. It's going to be a long ride. I think in terms of kicking off the story, this is a really shocking opener. Certainly at the time, I was not expecting them to kill Matt Smith. I really like how the mystery gets set up and what they do with that. I think there's some good little character bits in this as well. I had a very, very good time with it, and I look forward to seeing what part 2 brings.
Yes, exactly. Because I think with this one especially, it's not necessarily a lot of setup, because I think you do get some answers to some stuff, but this does set up the two-part. It sets up the series as a whole. It sets up the couple of mysteries that we're going to explore throughout. So it does a lot of the legwork for the series early on, I think, which maybe the 11th Hour didn't necessarily need to do or do for series 5. I think that one
series 6 is a very different structure, isn't it? So they can just tell the story in a different way.
Yes, and I'm excited to see if that pays off. But we will have to decide that once we get to the end of series 6, which is a few weeks away yet. So as always, we discuss our positives and negatives for the episode. I think I went first last time. I can't remember. So, but I'll let you go first. That'll be nice. It was your birthday recently. There you go. That's your birthday present.
It was, yes.
Go first.
Thank you. That's so kind. My first positive is the call for, which I think was also my positive in regards to the finale. But here we are again. What a run of episodes we've had. Basically, all of them with the call for in it. I love the dynamic of the Doctor, Amy, Rory, and River. I think it works together really, really well. Even individual pairings, I think, are great within that kind of 4. I think even off screen, I think the actors clearly get on super well, and I think that shows. And I like that we've still got a few kind of different pairings with this one. In particular, River and Rory kind of went off on their own and had a little scene together, which I thought was one of my favorite scenes of the episode. where River kind of talks Rory through, the worst day that's going to come for her and all of that. And just that rude line, which is like, "Oh, it's going to kill me." I'm like, "You fuckers."
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It will. It literally will.
It will. Which is just rude, but that's something that Doctor Who can do because we've seen that character die. We know it's. I like the irony of that.
Yeah.
A lot of shows that would be foreshadowing in a lot of shows, but we've already seen that that's not the case, and it's like the opposite, which is River's whole deal. So I really like that they lean into that as well and have a bit of fun with it. And yeah, kind of really test this group more than we've seen with the Doctor's death. I'm going to be doing the Doctor's death a lot, I think, as we talk this season. Obviously, if this was the first time we were watching it, I wouldn't need to do that.
No.
But I'm just going to, I won't even bother my poor fingers. But I like that they're just really thrown in at the deep end in a major way with that whole kind of mystery and trying to unravel what's going on with that. Still kind of teasing, the River reveal that's going to be a big point in this season as well. And yeah, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes right now. There's a lot going on with astronauts and the silence and Nixon and Canton and all sorts of nonsense. But I do like how the dynamics kind of, it can be very playful, like when they all reunite in America, and then what happens at the lake, and that's pretty tense. The Doctor being like, "Why the fuck would I trust you, River? Like, come on, you shady bitch." So I like the tension with that as well. Understandable. And then immediately they get all flirty again, like it's not happened, because coping mechanisms. Very much what 13 does as well. So yeah, I like that we had the whole spectrum of emotions from that group, and I think that dynamic really, really works. And we haven't even got the big reveal of who River exactly is yet, and that kind of changes it all up all over again, and I think allows us to look at events in this episode in a certain light, as I will talk about my fun facts, which is fun about who knew what about the plot line going into this episode. Because some people were in the dark, some people knew everything. So I think that's quite fun to kind of examine the performances in that way. But yeah, I think that those characters, it just works so well as like a little TARDIS team. I think it does help that River's not always there. This is the series where we see her the most, obviously. But even then, it's only like 1 or 2 episodes more than we saw in series 5. But it's kind of her story is kind of the arc of this season in many ways. But yeah, I think that dynamic just works, and it's put on really good display here. It's nice seeing them all together, and also as little pairings that split off and have some good moments.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, not sort of my main positive. The TARDIS team is my sort of additional one. Because I really like the characters. I really like how they interact. They feel like they're comfortable. There's no one like vying for control, if that makes sense. There's no like you don't have to only focus on one person and then the rest sort of get a little bit sidetracked, at least in the 3 episodes that we've had with them, really. And I think that really helps, and it really helps establish a good TARDIS team for when they are sort of together. Where everyone stands, which is very, very useful. My main positive, which I suspect might be one of yours, the silence.
Yes, they are my number 3.
Oh, there you go. They are creepy as fuck, and I love them.
Yeah, I noticed for the first time watching it this time, like their heads like pulsate in the bathroom. I was like, that's fucking horrible. I never noticed before, but the mask.
Oh,
so that was horrible. So I hate them even more now in the best way.
Yeah, they look like they're kind of cliche in the fact that they're your cliche grey alien with the sort of oval head, but that plays into the whole fact that they've been there forever and that you don't necessarily.
That's where the stereotype came from.
Psyche. Yeah, and it gives you the Slender Man-esque vibes, which I think was a big thing around the time, if not a little bit.
I think it was the same year.
Was it?
Must have been. I think the game had come out the same year this came out.
Interesting. But yeah, so it's just the whole like creepy vibe. They're not necessarily played for creepiness in this episode. There's the couple of
I was surprised at how little there was of them in this one.
Yes,
I thought there was more, but I guess they really are kind of the stars of the next one, really.
Yeah, they're more for the next one where they're a bit more creepier and a bit more present. But in this one, obviously the bathroom scene is pretty terrifying, where he just zaps the woman and she like explodes and disintegrates. Like that was pretty graphic for tea time TV.
Bit of a killjoy, wouldn't you say?
Oh god, poor Troy.
Well,
but yeah, they're not necessarily that creepy. There's a bit where Rory like pokes his head out and he sees them in the corridor coming up, and I think that's like the creepiest they ever are. And I'm sure we'll see how they get out of that situation.
I'm sure we will.
They won't just whoop, we're here.
They won't just appear back in the corridor, and
no.
I guess they would have forgotten whatever happened, but still.
You still got to get past them, ain't you?
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Maybe Rory's clothes are like really burnt. I've never noticed.
Yeah.
They just never pick up on it.
Could be, yeah.
It'd be very funny.
But yeah, they are. They're excellent. I think they look creepy. They're so well designed. I think they're one of
when they do this when they're asleep. I'm like, oh
yeah, they're one of like Moffat's probably best villains, if not his. The best one. Obviously, the Angels kind of have that nostalgia feel, I think, for them because they featured in David Tennant's era. But I think in terms of a villain, I think the Silents are like his most iconic one, I would say.
I think yeah, they're certainly the villain, I think, of the 11th Doctor. And
definitely
this era as a whole, yeah.
And yeah, they're great. I really can't praise them enough. I just really like them, and I would love to see more of them because we find out that they're not like they're a race outside of what their purpose is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is like a rogue chapter of them, isn't it?
Yeah, so I would love to see if these even are, whatever this alien species is actually called. I'd love to see more of them, and just do something new with them, as without maybe they're quite diplomatic outside of this rogue people. Maybe there's something else you can do with them. But I think I'd definitely love to see them come back. Whether they do or not, I think is a different question.
Yeah. I think there was one in a cage in Revolution of the Daleks. And
there was.
So they still have the costumes. They're still about.
I was like, oh, hey, one of them.
Do something with them. Give them a different colour suit or something, and you're good to go. Put them in a clown suit.
Exactly. Well, he was in the red jumpsuit, wasn't he, for the prison thing in the prison. But yes, what else? What have you got to say about the Silents?
The what? No, I love them as well. I think they're so creepy. Bulbous heads, big ass hands, gross. Hate them in the best way. The fact that they are like a traditional kind of alien stereotype in how they look. I like that they kind of do play into that with what they do. I think the idea that you just forget them when you're not looking at them is fucking horrible. I think that's such a cool, creepy idea. And how they kind of expand on that in the next one, like they start drawing like tally marks on them so they know that they've been seen, and all those different tricks they kind of come up with to ultimately beat them. All really, really good stuff. I love that. And yeah, that bathroom scene, like you mentioned, it when their mouth appears only when they're attacking, and it's like they're just really well shot in that, and like they're like how they just move. Gross. So everything about them, their physicality, their appearance, the makeup job on their costumes and everything, I mean, it's just like a black suit, but there's something so unsettling about the fact that they're in suits.
It's so like stilted as well. It's like it's almost like their flesh.
It's like because they are literally like tailoring the human race to do what they want it to do and have done for ages, and then they've got their tailored suits and everything. So you kind of you really get a sense of control in them. They know what they're doing. They're good at what they're doing. Subtly kind of being like, Amy, tell the doctor this and that, blah, 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 blah. And she certainly tells them one of the things. So, there's that. And yeah, they're just such an iconic villain, I think, of this whole era. I think they're a brilliant idea. Obviously, I think we can talk maybe a bit more in detail about how exactly they work and their creepiness and stuff in the next one when they're more prominently featured, because this was definitely like set up. And I would say like the astronaut seems to be more of the villain of this first one. But yeah, they certainly make one hell of an impact, hence why they're on my list of positives in this one. A really, really strong start to the season. And ironically enough, they're one of the most unforgettable villains of the show. So I like it.
Lovely. I do appreciate that. So that's your third/second positive. My second/second is Canton.
I had a feeling you gave it Canton.
Is I just really like him. I think I like the actor in general.
You should watch Firefly then. He's great.
It's on my list. It is on my list.
I knew this was going to happen. I'm sorry. Be Real just went off. I knew this was going to happen. So
well, here you
this
go,
is happening
everyone.
live.
You're welcome. God.
Hooray!
Yes, we really are being real. I won't. My phone's over there. We won't. I won't be. I won't be real today. I'll be half an hour late.
I had a feeling that's going to happen when we're recording today. I just knew. So that will take about 20 minutes to upload because B-Real is so fucking
ridiculous.
slow. So I'll just leave that. We can carry on.
We can carry
Canton.
on. Canton. Mr. Canton Everett Delaware III, which I think is such a ridiculous name for a character that only appears in 2 episodes.
How dare you?
I think he's great. I think the sort of the scene where I'm like sold on him is when he's like in the TARDIS and he comes out and he's like, "Sorry, what the hell is this? What the hell's going on?" And then he's like, "Oh, I like your wheels." Like when he's finally clocked what's going on. I think that's like the pinnacle of where he is. We get a bit more of him next week. I think the only sort of criticism I have, and it's not even of him, but I would have liked to have seen, I think, more of him in the series. Especially because he's like, he's given a letter at the start and he turns up to the funeral and it's like, oh my god, who's this? And he's only in these 2 episodes. I feel like I don't know how you'd put him in more. Maybe you take him you take him as part of the team. I don't know, but
I'm sure there's Big Finish about it.
Well, maybe, yeah, but I think that's my only downside to his character is that I just wish there was more of it, which I guess is a positive in itself.
Positive in a way,
you do want more. I think he's very sassy and he just has that confidence, especially when he's talking to like the president of the United States and sort of tells him point blank that I did not vote for you. You are not the guy I voted for, but I will help you either way. And then obviously it's revealed next week why he ended up leaving the FBI, which I think is a nice little sort of not twist on his character, but it shows his morals and where they are and sort of where his priorities are, which I think is nice as well. And I think he was just, there's not too many additional characters in this episode because we're really focusing on the main 4, but of the sort of side characters of him, Nixon, and the one Secret Service guy that keeps making all the wrong decisions.
I think the villain of Guardians 3.
Yes, exactly. I think Canton's definitely the standout, and I would like to see more of him. It's definitely not going to happen anytime soon. I can't imagine, but I wish he was in the series more.
Yeah, my favorite moment of his in this one was when he's like, "Oh, this guy's just appeared with a blue box and 3 of his friends. And this is the guy who walked past. Like, who should you listen to here?" I think that's a really clever line. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can tell that he's got like the intrigue of who the hell is this guy, rather than your generic I'm a FBI man, I'm gonna stop you kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really refreshing when they actually just go along with it.
Yes, which is a big change, and I do really like him. So your second/final positive.
Yes. The cinematography. I think this episode looks great.
Andor director
Toby Haynes, who is on
Christmas Carol director Toby Haynes.
Yeah, Big Bang and Pandora Cropan's director Toby Haynes. This is his 4th of 5 episodes in a row. And what a run he gets, and what a run of episodes he gets.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of that must fall on his shoulders and their success and why they're, well liked. And I think this one, is no different. It helps, I think, they went to America to film this and all that. They definitely leaned into the Americanisms with Doctor Who this year in general. So like,
even though the diner's in Cardiff.
Yeah, apart from that. But the BBC was like, right, you're going to go to America. You're going to have a mid-season finale and a mid-season premiere, like in America. Torchwood, you're going to be working with America this year for your series and work with this American network because this airs at the same time.
Because we don't want to pay for the whole thing. So
they really tried to get it in America. To be fair, it worked. Certainly for Doctor Who's case.
And then they never made any more Torchwood.
No, well, there's a Big Finish series 5.
There is a series 5 for Big Finish. So if you're interested,
it's fine. If you're that big of a Tortured fan,
it's fine.
There's that for you. And I'm sure they'll never make any more. Certainly not now. Or certainly not with the lead. But
probably not.
I really liked a lot of how this episode was kind of put together and how the first half of the episode is like really bright and colourful and light. At the beach, and I think the TARDIS is particularly brightly lit in this episode as well. And then as soon as they get to the Oval Office, the rest of the episode is really like dark and dingy as they go to where the astronaut was, and they go in the underground bit with the silent TARDIS. from the Lodger. Best episode of all time. Makes a return. And yeah, I really liked how that all looked, and some of the shots of like when the astronauts just there watching them, and like, ooh, creepy. All of it, I think, there's some really great kind of cinematography and direction in this one. I guess I'd thing them in together. And yeah, I think that's another reason why this episode has stood out for me and stands the test of time. It's just such a kind of, I guess, physical departure in a way, quite literally for the actors, from what's come before. And I really liked how wonderful this episode looked.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I did like most of how it looks, and most of it. I think I have a negative that I'll talk about a little later on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I think it looked great. And I think, even A Christmas Carol, other than the whip pans and the reveals, I think all of the past 4 episodes have looked pretty good. Overall, in general terms, taking dodgy CGI out of it.
I think because I hadn't paid that much attention to like Doctor Who directors that much before. Well, certainly not until like the recent few years. I do think Toby Haynes is up there for me. Some of my favourites.
Yeah, and to be fair, it was only when I was
and Rachel Talali.
Like, I was vaguely aware. I must have been vaguely aware of Toby Haynes, because when the credits for Andor came up at the end of the first episode, and I saw his name, I went, I recognise that name, and I
probably my fun facts.
I was like, hey, look, he's done 5 episodes he's done. I was like, hang on a minute, we've just watched them. What's going on?
Wait a minute.
But yeah, I mean, and that's why I was a bit confused, is because there was no dramatic, at least in the first 2 episodes of Andor, no dramatic turns.
No.
Still to come. We've got 1 more episode out, so I have not seen it yet. So there might be. I will let you know. But yeah, I do agree that the sort of the direction on this is very good. And it's strange that he never sort of did any more episodes after this 2-part. I don't know whether that's because he didn't want to, or whether he wasn't invited back. No idea. Maybe we'll have to do some digging and see if we can find out what he was doing after Doctor Who, because he might have just been preoccupied.
Yeah, he'd made his money for a few years. He was good.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or most times, Doctor Who is the stepping stone to doing other things, especially if you're like the director. Similarly to like EastEnders and Emmerdale and stuff, where actors and producers and stuff go there, try their trade, and then move on. That's effectively Doctor Who at times, especially when it comes to the actors.
Yeah.
But yes, my third positive, I think, is the setting. The locale and the time frame, not like present day, we're at the diner, but everything in 1969, and all the Apollo stuff. I think I really like, I like space, I like NASA, I really like the space race stuff and the moon landings, and it just surprised me that we haven't really had an episode set around, or at least on, the like moon landing, considering it's like one of the most iconic and historic moments of space travel that the human race has ever had. It's strange that it's taken this long. Maybe people have always just thought it's too like sacred, so to be like, oh yeah, aliens are involved. Plus, you can't really do it in the 70s or 80s when the show's on, because it's only like just happened.
And the very same year as this, Transformers: Dark of the Moon did it as well.
There you go.
The trend of the time.
See? Yeah,
I think one of them's more successful than the other, but
Doctor Who.
That is
obviously.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Oh, you don't think? Oh, wow. That Transformers film, I still think, made like £1 billion.
No, I like Transformers 2 is the only one I don't like. I like the rest of them. So.
I mean, they're all fine. They're all your popcorn action stuff. So if you like him, you like him. It's fair enough. But it still made a lot of money, Transformers. So you could argue that film is more popular than Doctor Who. But in terms of people enjoying it, probably Doctor Who might be a little bit more.
Depends on budgets.
We'll see. Yes, I don't think we'll see.
How many astronaut action figures did they sell? I bought both variants, so at least 2.
Amazing. What was the other variant? One with it down and one with it up?
No, there's one with the little girl in it, and there's one with River Song in it.
No,
technically, I guess
spoilers.
It's the same person.
Yeah.
Spoilers, but yeah.
Well, I mean, she's Melody, isn't she? It's the girl, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, the setting, 1969, the space race, all that jazz. I think it's great. I think it's a great sort of setting for some sci-fi stuff. It's kind of contemporary because it's it's not like ancient history. It's fairly new. in the grand scheme of things, it's fairly new.
Everton
And
is good.
it's like something that will inspire like kids to. It's kind of educational because kids will then be like, oh, what was this? And they'll go, if they didn't already know, which most kids watching this probably are aware of it. But it would inspire people to go and have a look and see what actually happened, and all of that interesting stuff, which I think is always fun when Doctor Who actually inspires people to look at themselves and look at things in past and see what really happened. Because funnily enough, there wasn't any aliens involved in the moon landing
that we know of.
Just Stanley Kubrick and a film set. That's all it was.
Yes.
Obviously. Have you got any other positives outside of your big three?
Let's have a look. Just the general mystery that they've been setting up. I'm very, I really like, like how we get answers, but then it's like another two questions coming from that. I love the reveal of the girl being in the astronaut suit at the end. I think that's so cool. I know she's like, it's gonna come and eat me, and I still was like, oh, when she was in there. And also, perhaps my favorite bit in the entire episode is when Nixon and Canton spot that the Doctor's there, and he just prompts them to carry on talking.
Yeah.
So he doesn't realize he's like, oh yeah, I'm the shitter here. I love that bit. It makes me laugh every time, and it's great.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I really like the TARDIS reveal in that scene as well. Like when it like this, it makes itself visible. I'm like, the music's swelling at that point. I'm like, it's great. And then
I'm sure the fans didn't hate that in the trailer.
Of
I'm
course.
sure that's not going to be a thing that they complain about.
He's on the desk, and they're like, "Oh, they're not going to shoot me." And then Riv's like, "Oh, they're American." Like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Oh, it's sad that it still stands as a funny joke today.
Oh dear.
Oh boy. My sort of additional one was obviously the TARDIS team and sort of the quote unquote foreshadowing. The Doctor telling Amy and Roy to go and have kids, have babies, which A, she technically is pregnant, and then B, kind of in a darker way, they can't have kids after this situation. So that's a somewhat of a foreshadowing moment. And with Amy being gaslit into thinking the dead Doctor is not a duplicate or a clone, he is. He is a duplicate. Now,
it very much ties into the hidden in plain sight deal that this whole season has going on. One of the very first lines in this entire season is Doctor Who. It's like hidden in plain sight. They're literally playing into that.
They said it twice. Doctor Who twice in this one.
And then Amy talk about clones and stuff. That's very much. It's a solution, but not the solution. And she also is herself in this moment a gang of clone as well. Spoilers. So all this hidden in plain sight. It is kind of a purposeful kind of laying throughout the season, which I think
and it works well. Especially this is the kind of thing when you've seen the whole show and you sort of know where it's going. It's good to have this kind of these little things you can pick up on and be like, that makes sense now, and you can kind of have a nod to yourself and be like, I get it.
I knew that.
Exactly. The Leo DiCaprio meme, the pointing at the pointing at the screen.
I get this now.
However, as we may talk about positives, we must also talk about our negatives. What is your first negative?
It's honestly the only issue I really have with it. I hate the slow motion at the end.
Yes, that's my one.
I hope it's so fucking dumb and unnecessary. Saving your life. You don't. It's not really dramatic. No. Like all of that. I don't get it. You don't need it. It's already dramatic. It's already going to be a big cliffhanger moment. Oh shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, did you really need the episode to be 5 seconds longer than it was? It's so bizarre. I've always hated it and thought it was just dumb and stupid. That's literally like, it's like putting something on like a TikTok filter now, and then they've slowed something down to make it sound comical, and they've just done that to try and make it more dramatic when you just don't need it. The drama is there. Very weird choice. And I hope whoever decides to do that feels bad about it now. I don't know. It was very bizarre.
Could have been an editor, could have been Moffat. We'll never know.
Could have been anyone.
Could have been the BBC.
And then like make it dramatic. I don't know if slow motion cliffhangers were a thing at the time. I can't remember. 11 years ago now. But I've always just thought that was so stupid. So, especially after like a really strong episode, to end it on like kind of a goofy note like that. I was like,
I think personally, I don't think it would have been too bad if they didn't speak. I think
Yeah,
it's the slow
that'd have
down
been fine.
voices that's the
It's
worst.
the voices,
It's
yeah.
the voices that
What
makes
do
it the
you
worst.
do?
Yeah,
They just sound drunk. I'm like, no.
yeah, it's not. It doesn't work. But yeah, if you have it just normal voices, what are you doing? Oh, saving your life, and then just have a whatever. And I think maybe there's an argument that it should have just had the gun. She should have shot and not then cut back to Amy's face and be like, oh, like just end it with the
Yeah.
gunshot. But again, maybe they did need that extra 5 seconds. Maybe there was,
Maybe they
they
did.
didn't
Maybe
have
they
a
had a
slot.
quota to fill. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my main positive. My main sort of big one is the slow motion. And that's the only kind of sour bit of the episode for me is like
That's the only bit of like, please change that.
yeah.
If I could go back and tell them to
yeah.
desperately like, please don't do this.
If I could
That's
do
what I
anything
would
to the
change.
show, I would change that. That's the one
Yeah.
thing I would change.
That's the one thing I changed about the entire show. Yeah.
Yep. Everything else is excellent, top tier, 10 out of 10. But that one
Yeah.
knocks the whole show down 5 points. 5 out of 5.
Yeah,
5
yeah,
out
go
of 10.
on. Make in the Forest of the Night. Do it. Just change this.
Just change that one. Yeah. Make the moon is an egg? Fine.
Yeah,
fine.
go on.
Just make sure this is fine.
Make clever monsters. That's a great idea.
Oh god. But yeah, that's fair. It's also my first one. So what is your second negative?
Let's have a look. I have to nitpick from here now. I did find, I think maybe near the middle, I found a bit slow, but that was more so me being like, oh, I thought there was more silence in this than I remember. And I was like, can we get to that bit now? I think maybe it was the lead up to the bathroom scene with Amy. I'm like, oh, just get to that bit now. I think maybe the pacing just kind of slowed it a bit there, but also it's kind of fine.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of where my interest kind of dipped a little bit.
Because it's a bit like, oh, he's got the map, so it's like, oh, I need to go to the toilet. You can't go to the toilet. Better go to the toilet. Take it to the toilet. And there's that. Yeah.
And they'd already done Canton like overshadowing that other security guy a few times already, and like that's not.
You could have just cut it going like, oh, you need to go to the toilet. I'll escort you. And then that.
But to be fair, if they got rid of that, then imagine how slow that slow motion would have been.
That's true.
I dread to think.
Oh god, it starts even earlier.
Yeah.
Rory.
during River's sad speech, they had to make it slow motion.
Oh,
I think
it's going to kill me. Oh,
nice wheels.
oh god, yeah. Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
I'm gonna download the episode now and just put it all in slow motion just to see.
Oh god, horrendous. You enjoy that because that's like double the time of the episode as well.
Yeah, that's
like
an hour and a half. That's gonna be our next movie night. Is we're watching that in
slow mo. Every
0.5 times speed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that's fair enough. I think there's a slightly little bit, but it's when it's when you it's the calm bit, isn't it? Like it's been go until that point. Then it's like, oh, okay, let's take a breather and then build up again.
It's kind of necessary, but a necessary evil, perhaps.
Yeah, that's fair. My second one is I think Amy was a bit too naive in this episode again. It very much felt like it was like one of her first adventures. Where she's refusing to understand how the hell the Doctor could still be alive after seeing he's dead. And I'm like, I get it because that's your friend, but at the same time, he's an alien time traveler. It shouldn't surprise you that he can just appear again. And she's like, when they're like, oh, how old are you? And he says his age. She's like, I don't get it. I'm like, you do. You're just being petty with not knowing it.
I think given she just watched her best friend die, I guess that's putting a weird statement.
Yeah.
Also, she's a ganger.
That's true. Yeah. So
maybe it's not the best copy.
Yeah, because then
currently giving birth or whatever.
Yeah. There's also the whole when she's like, oh, I have an idea of what we can do. And I was like, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, don't do it. It's like, oh, you don't know what I'm thinking. I'm like, you're thinking the most obvious thing that anyone at this point would be thinking.
Yeah.
Of course, she knows what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's just a few moments where I was like, I know you had a break or whatever, like, what was it, 2 months, did they say?
2 or 3, yeah.
Something like that. So maybe you're a bit rusty, but I still think there's a little bit of naivety there that could have been cut out, I think, or changed slightly. Especially because, with River supposedly being her daughter, you maybe could plant the seed there of Amy being like stronger. Maybe have Amy be swap Amy and River around in that kind of moment, and then you could see where River gets, her confidence from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard when River kind of knows what's going on. Really.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I don't know.
But there's definitely probably something they could have done.
Yeah, it just feels a bit out of place for me. But it's nothing that I'm like, oh, it's no slow motion ending.
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What is your third?
Yes, my third pathetic nitpick that's always bothered me, and it really doesn't matter, but it's always bothered me when Amy and Rory arrive on the bus and they're like, "Is this the place?" And the bus pulls away and the doctor's there, and they're like surprised to see him. You would have seen him there. The car's parked right next to the bus. You'd have seen him on there. That's always bothered me, and it's such a tiny little thing. And I'm like, how bad is your vision? Are you blind? Are gangers blind? Is that a thing now?
Short-sighted.
It's always just really bothered me. Like, how could you not have seen it? He's parked right there.
Maybe the car was there, but he was like hidden behind the car.
That's the location. Surely they would know, like, oh, that car must have something to do with it then in this random spot. Maybe. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't take anything away. But it's just always bothered me that, whatever. They wanted a fun entrance for him. They had the idea for it. Why not?
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. I couldn't say it bothered me, but it makes sense. My other one, and I sort of messaged you about this one, is maybe the episode is too horny. I think we had this issue with the series 5 opener. I think I said it was a bit too horny. In this one, the doctor's like banging the 1800s man's mistress or something, his wife.
Oh, getting a new painting to get more in Amy's attention.
And then hiding under her dress, which heavily implies, I think, that there was something else going on there.
Well, he needed a hiding place, obviously.
It's true. But
where else was he going to hide?
Under the bed.
No.
They do it. They do that in, a series time? They hide under the bed?
Yes, in a completely different room, in a different setup, with more space under the bed.
But yeah, I think it's that, and it's Rivers saying she's a screamer. I'm like, oh, didn't really need that. No. I get it that I think it's fine. And there's
it's fine. You just don't think women should own their sexualities. It's fine.
No, I just don't think the doctor should. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's also fair.
Because I think that's just a little bit, especially because like the Matt Smith's Doctor and River don't really have much like time alone, if that makes sense. The only one that really does is Capaldi's Doctor. So it kind of implies whatever. But yeah, I think it's just a bit too much. And it happened. It was less horny series 5 than I thought it was going to be, especially after the series 5 opener with Amy being in her police outfit and whatnot. So hopefully series 6 will be the same, where it turns it down slightly again. But we will see. Either way, it's a nitpick. It's not too bad. It's two like jokes effectively, and they're fine. Kids won't really get it. Adults will be like, which is fine. It's fine. I can handle it. Also, on your sort of when they arrived at the thing on the beach, the one thing that always has bothered me, and I've realized watching this one, is when River's shooting her gun and she uses like her whole hand to like reload the gun. I'm like, stop it, that's terrible, stop it.
Do
it with your thumb like normal people. What are you doing? But
try not to shoot herself, I guess.
I mean, yeah, but just be like, oh, my gun's jammed, and end it like that. I don't know. But this doesn't matter anyway. She gets shot later on.
Yeah, well,
and it's fine, and she can regenerate. So
don't want to give that away too soon, do you?
No, that's what also made me laugh. I did put in my notes. I was like, oh, how can Matt Smith regenerate? He's out of regenerations. And I was like, now we know that. It's kind of like that's your first giveaway that it's a fake regeneration, because in theory he shouldn't be able to.
Also, the regeneration effect, I noticed it's very much more like particle-y than any other ones they use. So I think they purposely made it look a bit different because it's just the Tesselector faking it.
Yeah, I do wonder if Moffat had planned Day of the Doctor and had planned, that there'd be the secret regeneration and stuff.
I doubt
and
it.
whether it, I mean, yeah, probably.
I know, because
he wanted Eccleston
to do it, didn't he?
Yeah,
So definitely not. That's why he
So-
regenerated.
yeah. So it does, it does make a nice, like, now that you know where the story goes, having him do the fake regeneration, you're like, that's definitely not real, because he wouldn't be able to, because he literally has none left.
Yes.
But again, that's something more for repeat viewing.
Mhm.
Have you got any other negatives?
No, I struggled. I must admit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I also don't think I have any other one. Maybe they kind of act like the street names that the child gives them is probably like supposed to be this street that everyone's supposed to know. They're like, oh yeah, you idiot! This is the. I was like, is it a famous street? Is that what it is? But
Well, maybe.
again, I mean, it could be in America, but I think maybe they were just like maybe a bit too harsh on it. You didn't know, you fools!
You
but
idiots! We don't even live here, and we worked it out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, fun facts, I believe.
Fun facts. I have many, in fact.
Nice.
Too many.
Oh boy.
But yes, I mean, we already covered it's the first two-part opening episode of the Revived series, so we can cross that one off straight away. The working title was The Year of the Moon. The Doctor does mention that. I'm glad they didn't go for that, because obviously Doctor Who fans with the Power of the Doctor recently, imagine having the Year of the Moon and then the Day of the Moon in a row.
God, we've got Day of the Moon. God.
Oh my goodness, 2 in a row like that. Like, oh my God, rest in peace, Doctor Who.
Oh my
Power
God.
of the Doctor. But yeah, so they changed it, obviously.
Yep.
This episode was dedicated to Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith. She passed away 4 days prior to the broadcast of this episode, which is very sad, and I can't believe it was that long ago. The version broadcast in the US, Australia, Canada, Israel, Latin America, and Italy featured an introductory voiceover sequence of Amy explaining her relationship with the Doctor. This was also included at the start of episode streaming on Netflix. That famously good opening thing that I loved so much.
Yeah.
This is the third story of the Revived series where the air date coincides with in-series events following The End of Time Part 1 on 25th of December 2009 and The Big Bang on 26th of June 2010.
Nice.
This is the first time in the Revived series that regeneration takes place outside of the TARDIS. There are later revelations in this series mean the first legitimate regeneration shown outside the TARDIS actually takes place at the end of the next episode. So there you go.
Yes. I was like,
yes.
What? The Doctor doesn't regenerate in the next one.
You fake fan.
Yeah.
The scene where the Doctor inserts himself into the Laurel and Hardy sequence, The Flying Deuces, is a reference to the 1992 Academy Awards, where host Billy Crystal was digitally depicted dancing alongside Laurel and Hardy in the same sequence. So that's nice. I guess that's how the Doctor got the idea from.
That's where all the budget went, was that digital insert.
Yes. River mentioning how the people of Easter Island worship the Doctor and asking about the statues there is an in-joke regarding the statues and their uncanny resemblance to Matt Smith, which is unfortunate, but I like to lay into the joke. The repeated phrase Space 1969 used throughout the episode is a reference to British sci-fi series Space 1999, which is set on the moon. It's all connected.
Whoa.
The idea of the Doctor turning out of a German prisoner of war camp is based on actual incidents that occurred during World War II, immortalized in the film, most famously The Great Escape.
I thought you could say actual incidents in Matt Smith's life. I was like, whoa,
yes, what? He actually escaped World War II German prisoner of war camp, yes. He's very old. Joy asks if the Silent is wearing a Star Trek mask. In universe, is
that a Star Trek mask?
Is that Star Trek? That's gotta be you. In universe, Star Trek would be cancelled less than 2 months later on 3rd of June 1969. So no, Joy, you fool.
That's because Joy referenced it to the Silence, and the Silence went back and was like, guys, we've got to cancel that show.
Yeah, they're like, have you heard of this Star Trek thing this woman was talking about? Let's watch it. Oh God, no, get rid of that.
Cancel it.
Oh God, no, William Shatner's gonna have some terrible views one day. Let's just cancel it.
I'm a rocket man.
Anyway. The Doctor calls River Mrs. Robinson, referencing the character from the film The Graduate, who has an affair with a younger man. River goes on to call the Doctor Benjamin, the name of Robinson's lover, in Let's Go Hitler later in the series, as she reenacts a famous scene from the film in said same scene. So, running gags, everyone.
Yeah.
William Morgan Shepherd and Mark Shepherd are real-life father and son. They had played younger and older versions of the same character the year before this episode in NCIS. Originally, Mark was going to wear old age makeup and also play the older Canton before he suggested that his father take on the part instead, which is very wholesome.
Hello, sorry about that. Something's going on with our internet. So I'm afraid we will have to wrap it up there. Sorry you won't get to hear any more of Liam's fun facts.
I'll read the rest for the next episode.
Yes, yeah, it's a two-parter, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Very quickly, before we do go, next week is Day of the Moon. Excited for it? What do you think?
Yes, I remember preferring it to part 1, so I'm looking forward to seeing if that's still going to be the case.
Lovely. We shall find out next week. And as always, there might be Doctor Who news coming out. Who knows?
What score are you giving it?
Well, I mean, if we have time, I'll give it 8.5.
It's an 8 from me.
Oh, interesting. We'll see how well they hold up next week then. Whether you do prefer. I'm surprised you've given it an 8, but
I'm surprised you've given it an 8.5.
I guess
it might be the first time you've ever scored something higher than me.
I guess you just hate Moffat.
I guess I do.
God.
Imagine giving him
Terrible.
a first at uni with that score, and I must clearly hate him.
How dare you? But yes, that'll be it. We'll be back next week with all kinds of other Doctor Who stuff, new and old, blah blah blah. Goodbye.
Bye.
Naturally, that was it stayed. We probably could have been fine, but
probably.
You know that if we went back, it would have been like
no. Absolutely, yes.
Never mind. Hopefully that didn't impact the recording too much, though.
Yes, we'll see.
Stop recording, please.
I had some very humorous hijinks on my end. I made some classic quips, but it's only recorded your side of that, so
I think so. Yeah.
They're lost to time, sadly.
It's still recording now, so that's making me panic.
Yeah.
Even though I've pressed stop.
Uh-oh.
Well, I mean, in theory, if we hang up, that'll stop it recording.
That's also true. I feel like it's done this kind of thing before and it was fine.
Well, let's hope so. Cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. And maybe we'll just have to record on Saturday if it fucks up. So, because I'm not doing it straight away tonight. We can
I'm not strong enough.
No, literally not. Cool. All right. I shall see you at some point, I suspect.
I imagine so, yes.
Bye.
Bye.